Good morning. This is Hernandez tree removal. What we're going to be doing now is a video that's going to discuss. I'm going to sit up a little bit. So, as you can see, I had to sit up just now. This is all very new to me, but what my goal is to create a uh, not chat podcast, a podcast. What the podcasts are going to be, it's very much like a Joe Rogan style type podcast. I've been listening to his program for a few years. Uh, Never really liked him before, and I think that him being able to speak his mind more clearly in what's called like a long form conversation or long form video, long form content. His videos are between 2 to 3 hours. They're very rarely under 2 hours. And I got to know him a little bit more. Of course, I don't know him personally or anything, but his ideas, his concepts, and it's really helped to teach me to not dislike somebody, not hate somebody like I did with Joe Rogan, because I really don't know them, and just because they have a few um, medias out there, and that's not enough really to gauge a person. And I think that's an overall contribution and society, negative contribution in society with social media. When you see somebody on TV, whether it's a commercial or a movie or an interview, and maybe you don't like the TV, maybe you don't like the movie or the commercial, you associate that person with that content, and um, it's very easy to dislike somebody that you have no idea who they are. So that's kind of what I think this program is going to be. I don't know any famous people, so I can't really talk about them. I don't really want to talk about them, just accept that they are people. Everybody uh, struggles with whatever it is. There's really no perfect person out here or out there, and we're all going to have faults, but we also all have a lot of things that are very good to society. I like to get to know a lot of people that are close to me, some of my neighbors, some of the people here in town. I live in Mason City, Iowa, and so this is kind of the first program. It's more of a test video. Um, I think, as you can see, I'm not holding anything. Or myself, holding my phone here. I'd like to be able to buy a better system. But this is a test video, so you're going to hear this. This is actual content, and I'm going to be doing a lot of the same things that I will be doing in the future videos that I hope are going to be done a lot better. But that's going to take a few weeks. So in the meantime, I'm just kind of getting a few kinks or bugs out, and it is okay to say kinks, in my opinion. I was thinking of the word chinks, chink in the armor. That was a huge subject matter a few years ago with. I wanted to say it was associated with an NBA player, but it wasn't. It was definitely a sporting event. And somebody said they have a chink in the armor, and uh, everybody really got upset with that. And I guess chink is a derogative word for, anybody of Asian heritage, and that's we're going to discuss a lot about that on this channel. Things of subjects like that, touchy subjects. I don't think that should be touchy, but I can always understand where somebody is offended. I grew up. I'm a second generation Mexican American. My dad was the first to come into the United States from his family, and he grew up and was born and raised in Mexico, and he decided to come to the United States to make a better living. Heard about, my dad's dead. He's passed away. I don't really know a lot. We didn't really talk a lot. I wish I could have talked to him more. He understood Spanish a lot better and could probably explain things a lot better. His English, he'd kind of get frustrated if he couldn't explain something the right way. He really did have I would say he was fluent in English, but some of those expressions or ideas or concepts, he couldn't translate them well. And he was more of a quiet person in English. In Spanish, I you couldn't get him to stop talking. He was always talking. I was always waiting for him in the truck. Seemed like hours. We'd go and do something real quick, and he'd go in and talk to somebody, and I'd just be sitting in the truck, miserable, not knowing what to do. I got sawdust all over me. We just came back from work. We're out in the hills cutting trees, doing some firewood, and we'd be on our way home, and he'd go and stop at somebody's house real quick, and that was an eternity for me. So I learned a lot of patience in my early days just doing that. Let's see if I can put this down. A little Takia water bottle, 17 ounce. So that's a good water bottle. I don't use it. It's a good phone stand. So I guess it's come in handy that way. I don't know how much phone stands cost. Probably $20. That water bottle costs $12. So if you're looking for a good phone stand, I recommend the Takia 17-ounce water bottle. That's a good deal there. So yeah, I learned a lot of patience just being around my dad. My dad himself was very patient. At times he wasn't. If he got to drinking, he was fun, but if you know any alcoholics or drinkers out there, he would be fun, and then in an instant it would be not fun anymore. You would just have to run and hide as fast as you could, because the carnage was about to come out. He was never abusive towards me, but he was abusive towards my mom, our mom. She's also dead. She died a few years ago, maybe 12 years ago. I don't know, somewhere around that range. So both my parents are dead, and that's been pretty difficult, being a 30-year-old without any parents. It's pretty tough. I don't wish that on anybody, but it's the way it is. We keep moving on. I do have my family now. I'm married now. Got kids now. I've gained a bunch of weight now. One of these things you're gonna see in this channel is you're gonna see me talk about, I don't really intend to talk about my health or anything, but I am on a program where I'm gonna start losing some weight here, and but that's not really what I want. It's not a health channel per se. And if you're familiar with Joe Rogan's videos, there's no one subject that he sticks to. Like, this is what he talks about. I know he tries to get pigeonholed by other medias. He's a UFC guy, he's a comedian, he's whatever he is. And when you hear his conversations, you don't even have to take my word for it. Just go onto his page and see who his guests are. If you take the last 20 guests, you're gonna see biology professors, astrophysicists, authors of various formats. You're going to see UFC guys, you're going to see health guys, you're going to see comedians, you're going to see politicians, just people that he finds interesting. He brings them on and they just talk. And let's say he brings on an astrophysicist. I don't even know if that's a real word or not. They might not talk about astrology during the whole show. They might talk about the Bucks, or the mountain ranges of the United States compared to the mountain ranges of Austria. They just talk. There's no um, format, and he just discussed this with. He most recently had the president Donald Trump on his show before he was elected, and he was saying how much he really wanted to have Kamala Harris on the show also, and there were a lot of stipulations and a lot of difficulties, and he was saying, if you want to be on the show, which I want you to be on my show, come over to my show and be on the show. It's the most popular show really in the United States. There's nothing else, TV or otherwise, that gets more views on a daily basis than the Joe Rogan program. Uh, uh, and it didn't happen, but afterwards people were against him on both sides. People that were on, I'll say, Team Kamala Harris were making fun of him. He's a comedian. What does he know about worldwide policies? Which I would say he himself doesn't, but he talks to a lot of people who do, which is what anybody does. If you talk to a doctor, they weren't born a doctor. They had to talk to and learn from people who have medical history, professional medical history. And he was saying that she could have came on the show and talked about shoes. She could have came on the show and talked about anything. And then when he said that, a lot of people on the right were saying, no, if you have something like that, you got to bury them. You got to really dig in. And so he's not here to make anybody feel bad. His whole point was that people should be people. You should be who you are, and you should, especially if you're going to run for the president of the United States, have the opportunity to show people who you are. Whether Donald Trump did that successfully, or whether he was a snake in the grass or a wolf in sheep's clothing, and it appeared like he was being himself, but really he was putting on a performance. I mean, that's on the president. That's on President Trump. That's not my business. That's not your business. He was on the show. Most people thought that he was a genuine person and spoke about a lot of different things. He wasn't really straightforward in answering some specific questions. That's a name one president candidate that has ever been straightforward. I don't know of any. I'm 30, I'm going to be 40 here in a few years, and I can say back in my 20s, I don't know anything. I'm just 20 years old. Or back in my 30s, early 30s, but now I'm almost 40, and I don't think that anything's changed from the time I was 12. There's been no straightforward presidents or president candidates that I know of. They're all, and it's the same thing when you talk about local politics, which is what I would like to get into. Is not be well. I would like to get into local politics. I don't think that I ever will, but when you answer one question, it gives ammunition to a lot of people. I see what they're doing, or a fear of ammunition. So based off of that fear, I don't want other people to have ammunition against me when I said that plot of land over there is going to be used to build another McDonald's. And I say that, and everybody else now sees that plot of land, nothing's there, and now there's a bidding war for that plot of land, and it's like, I shouldn't have said anything because I could have got that land pretty cheap, and now because I opened my mouth, now it's so there's a lot of stuff like that when you talk about politics. When politicians are talking, and that's just how it is. We are fortunate enough to be raised in America, born in America, and be Americans. If you are in a different country, I don't know if you are or not, and I do know a couple of people. Well, my family's all in Mexico. I don't know how well they speak English, if there's any English speakers or fluent English speakers in Mexico. My family, I assume there's a few. Whenever I went to Mexico to visit my family, I didn't know any. None of my family were. Well, there was one, but they didn't live in Mexico though. They were also visiting. Um, Born and raised in Mexico and went back to visit. So, thank you.